Okay, well, great. So great to be with you. And Todd, I just want to thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to present today and share this research. It's a little bit different than some of the empirical and data-driven type of research that I know many of you engage in and present on. This will be a little bit more of a focus on policy proposals. But let's go ahead and get into it. And I would love to take any questions as we go, or if we're holding them to the end, either way is fine with me, but feel free to come in at any point. So I'm from the business school, as you see up here. Great to be with you today. I teach in the area of business law. Our department is accounting and law, but I'm in the business law area. All right, well, to start out, I thought I would ask, in 2019, for which we have data, what percentage of Americans could not afford a $400 expense? Meaning afford that expense from their savings without having to access debt or credit cards or some other source, but actually have $400 saved. I can go ahead and answer because I don't know if this is an interactive environment or not, but oh, look, there's the chat. So let me open up chat here just a minute. 30%, hey, Todd, all right, where you go? 30, 20% or so. Great guesses. I guess I need to leave chat open. Let me see if I can do this. 25, all right, Jim, right in the middle. We'll go 30, 20, 25, somewhere in there. Let me get this chat box moved over so I can see my own screen. Well, great. Well done. You guys are right in the ballpark. So 37% in 2019 could not afford a $400 expense. This is a survey done by the federal government, by the Treasury. A different survey is run with a $1,000 expense. What percentage of Americans could not afford a $1,000 expense? And we could throw numbers out as well if we would like. You know, clearly we've now doubled it from 400, even more, up to 1,000. Well, 69% cannot afford the $1,000 expense. So great, I see we've got 80% and a 55% guess. So again, we've kind of got both ends of the spectrum. Nicely done. So 69% of Americans cannot afford a $1,000 expense from savings. Last quick question, and we will move forward. What percentage of Americans did not have a bank account as of 2019? Well, this one, thankfully the percentage is lower, but nonetheless, 5.4% in 2019 did not have a bank account at all. That's actually an improvement. So from in 2009, it was at 7.6%. So 5.4% comes out to about 7.7 million Americans without a bank account at all. So not having a bank account at all, we refer to that category as unbanked, typically in the literature on this subject. And not having a bank account certainly makes it more difficult to save. Not impossible, but more difficult. Well, a few more quick data points and questions. Total federal budget in 2019 was $4.4 trillion. We're going to be leading up to the amount of federal stimulus, which many of you may be familiar with, just because it's been in the news a lot. Well, US military expenditures in all of World War II were $5 trillion. The COVID stimulus, you know, we're probably still going to tack onto this, but we're, somewhere around 6 trillion. So these are inflation adjusted numbers, of course. It's been referred to as kind of helicopter money, which was an idea floated years ago as a stimulus measure that could be used in times of need. Well, this certainly fit the bill, and the federal government has sprung to action and provided stimulus in numerous different forms, whether it be direct payments to individuals, it's been loans on extremely favorable terms, it's been extended unemployment benefits, it's been in the form of numerous different types of stimulus, but not in savings directly, as we'll see. However, this stimulus that was provided did have an impact on savings. In fact, we had record highs in 2020. Now, if you go back and look at, other emergencies or other recessions or other times of economic upheaval, the savings rate always goes up because, people get nervous. So naturally, when you don't know if you're going to have a job next month, this month you're going to save. You're going to hold on to your funds. So it's no surprise that it would go up, but it went up much higher than a typical, emergency situation, in large part due to the stimulus. So that's great news. However, looking more closely at the savings, one realizes that the savings are largely wealthier people saving more money. And so we did see in March and April, the bottom 40% of earners actually increased their share of total cumulative savings. So, for a brief moment, the savings blipped up for lower income people. But since then, the savings of the bottom 40% are depleting more rapidly. Not terribly surprising, just in the sense that wealthier people are going to be able to cover their expenses, their daily expenses, more easily and have money left over. So not terribly surprising that wealthier people would save more. However, from a policy perspective, it's important to ask the question how or whether the stimulus funds that we provide target the right goals or not. And at the time of the initial stimulus coming out, a lot of the proposals were talking about the importance of stimulating the economy. And there was even a proposal floated about instead of sending cash, which can be saved, maybe the government should send a use it or lose it debit card to basically force people to use the stimulus funds to spend the money and thereby stimulate the economy. Go to restaurants, buy things at the store, which all helps, with jobs and things. So there's good reason why stimulus funds are designed to be spent. However, the question that I really investigate in this article is it really the case that we should have no provision for future savings? Or said it differently, is it possible that maybe the COVID emergency could be a lead-in to preparing better for future emergencies through increased savings rates? So let's look a little deeper at savings. And I just want to look at my time here. Todd, I want to stay on track. So got 5 minutes or so, is that about right?
Yeah, so you want to leave a few minutes for questions. So you have maybe 3 minutes. Can you?
Got it. Yeah. Let me zip us through. So why not save in a checking account? Well, we refer to a double tax on savings, where you are taxed on the money you earn. So if you earned $10 and paid a 20% tax, you'd have $8 left over to invest. When you invest that, you then pay tax on your earnings. So that's the double tax that we refer to. So that's the first reason why it's less efficient to save in a standard checking account. But then secondly, it's important to note that we do have, tax favored savings accounts, and, IRAs and 401ks are things that many of us would be familiar with. There's numerous other types of savings accounts. Well, another reason why these are important, apart from eliminating the double taxation issue, is that people save more when there is a defined pathway to do so. So I posit in this article that Emergencies are also foreseeable, not just retirement, college education, medical expenses. Yes, they're foreseeable, but emergencies are too. They strike indiscriminately. Their timing is unpredictable, but they do come typically to us all. So the proposal would be to have, similar to an IRA or a 401k, but a much smaller dollar amount where people could save a small amount per year to prepare for future emergencies. And I will skip over some of this to go quickly. Some of the details of the proposal would include a matching tax credit, where currently what exists is a saver's tax credit, where a person can get a tax refund for taxes paid. What I would propose is a matching tax credit that would be paid, that would be deposited directly into the electronic savings account, so that the tax credit is not just sent back as cash that would then be spent, but rather is deposited into the account. In addition, one of the big issues with designing savings accounts is access for unbanked people or low-income people, who often find that banks create obstacles for them to open accounts, such as minimum balances, such as fees. And because of free electronic accounts that are essentially open to anyone, regardless of race or credit history or background, and they can be opened online, it's now feasible to create free accounts that could be used for this purpose. There would be a few other details here, but I'm skipping over them a little bit quickly here, just so that we can get to the kind of final proposal in a nutshell. You know, can COVID be a springboard for Americans to save better, to prepare for future emergencies? Well, these 5 characteristics, I think, would help us get there. Make it a relatively low amount, give tax savings for emergencies. Raiding an IRA or a 401k before retirement to cover emergencies is not a very good method for addressing emergency expenses. So in addition, an emergency account could provide much more easy access to the funds, whereas for obtaining access to 401k funds for emergencies has many more hurdles that are necessary. So having an account designed for emergencies would allow for much quicker access. I'm going to go ahead and leave it at that. This is very much just a nutshell of the proposal, but hopefully you see the concept, and I would love to discuss further or address any questions or comments that you might have.
Thank you very much. That was great. Very provocative. Are there any questions or comments? So I actually had a question, and so so this is definitely outside of my area of expertise, but if individuals received a stimulus, and let's say they bought stocks on the open market, where does that fit? Is that more of a savings, or is that an expense? Like, how does that, or if they got, let's say, the debit card, you would mention a debit card, can you buy stocks with that? And how does that stimulate the economy too by buying stocks? It's a loaded question.
Yeah, great point. I mean, I think the short response would be that I don't think it provides much of a stimulus effect, but it would count as savings. So if a person invests in stocks, that would be recorded as saving the money. And whether that could be accomplished with a debit card, it would probably depend on the way the debit card was structured. But typically when people make the debit card proposal, they're doing it to prevent people from buying stocks with the money and instead get them to use it at Walmart, or Home Depot or whatever.
And I don't know what the investment rate, like I don't follow stocks that well with stocks, pre and before the pandemic or when it hit, but it seemed like more people were interested in the stock market once the pandemic hit and the prices went down. My guess is that a lot of people invested in that. And maybe you know the data on that.
Yeah, great point. I mean, I won't be able to whip out figures on that, but I can definitely affirm that, you know, it would have been a great time to invest. I mean, people who were able to take the stimulus funds and invest it immediately, it was great timing simply because we had pretty much a trough. And so that would have been a great move. The intent of the stimulus was more related to stimulating spending as opposed to saving, which was appropriate at the time. Like, I'm not saying that we should have been focused on saving at that moment. However, seeing what we went through with the emergency stimulus, it seems that it's an opportunity to look towards mechanisms to kind of grease the skids for savings, make it easier for people to prepare for emergencies in the future.